Blessings, everyone. Good evening. Oh, good evening. Welcome to this week's version of Sunday Night Alive. My name is Reverend Denise Schubert, and I am here to host this evening. Our topic tonight is, what do butterflies know? What do butterflies know that we don't know that would be useful for us to know? So if you're joining me for the first time, there's a comment section so you can say hello. Hi, David. Good evening to you. It's a good weekend, yes? I've had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Unity of Naples was very good today. I'm feeling good today. Hopefully you are too. So I'm going to speak a word of blessing upon us, but please do check in. I've talked about butterflies before. I actually talk about this quite a bit because it's a beautiful analogy. Hi, John. And Brian. It's a beautiful analogy for what enlightenment might look like, or what human awakening might look like. So we can learn so much from really this natural God-given thing that happens, certainly to caterpillars and butterflies, but also to us. But before I start that, let me just speak a word of blessing upon us. To bless something is to call it sacred, to call it out of the ordinary, extraordinary, meaningful, imbued with the divine. It's a good thing. And so just join me as we come together right now, releasing any stress and tension of your day, releasing any hardness in your heart or your mind, and just allowing yourself to enter into a space of open receptivity. You know, we're here together right now. We could be off anywhere, right? We could be barbecuing burgers or sitting having a glass of wine somewhere, but we have taken the time to come together for a half hour or so. So let us claim for ourselves some aha moment, some insight or revelation or something good. And so it is from that place, really, of recognizing our connection to one another and to the deep love that is a truth between us, that I just bless our time, knowing that we are both a blessing and blessed, that we give and receive, and for that reason, this is good. And so for this little community gathering here tonight for this message, we're grateful. We let it be, and so it is. Amen. Amen. So hello, everyone. I just love when you poke your names in there, because it makes me feel connected, and it makes me feel a little less silly sitting in my living room talking to a computer, because really I'm talking to you. Though I am getting ready to do a Zoom class. I'm wanting to do a 6-week Zoom class with some serious content, and so be thinking if that might be something you would like. So our topic today is what butterflies know. And I want to just start by really addressing again a little bit the higher why of why we come together. You know, this world, I like to think of it as there's two very distinct choices we can make, two very different universes we can live in. Universe number one is the universe we're used to. It's the world of the five senses. It's the world that is visible, that is tasteable. You know, we can see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, feel it. It's where we believe that what can be seen is more real than what cannot be seen. And so it leaves us in a little bit of a state of being at the effect of. It is the universe number one is the universe where the ego has dominance. And when the ego has dominance, there is always winners and losers, always striving to compete, always hoarding and accumulation out of fear or lack. It's a world of a little bit of a false identity, where we actually think that we're our bodies, that we think that somehow we're encased in this skin. So it's that perception by itself, that spiritual perspective by itself, leads to a kind of separation that leaves our identity primarily being drawn from the past and is karmically being driven, trying to work out the cause and effect, the actions and consequences. The physical world without any spiritual influence is really kind of a dog-eat-dog world. It's kind of only the strong survive. It's kind of them or us. So I much prefer universe number two. Remember, let's make a deal, door number one, door number two. We have universe number one, which I just described. And the higher why is because that universe, if you look into our world, you will see, and without any negativity, I'm not being negative here, and I'm not also not denying that who we are plays a role in the up-leveling of humanity. But the way it is right now, it's kind of a mess. There's a lot of violence, a lot of opinions, a lot of judgments, a lot of crazy human behavior. Yes, do you know what I mean? It's like crazy. I look and it's like, oy vey, really. So universe number two is an option, and universe number two is really living in a place where there is no effort, there's nothing to lose, nothing to hide, nothing to fear. It is really that kind of living, or that kind of being, that some of our sacred literature really speaks to, the kingdom of heaven on earth, the kind of knock and you shall receive, that kind of going with the flow of life, where life is relatively easy, and it's as if we live in a stream of well-being and don't have to effort too much. So this universe number two is an extraordinary place to live. One of my favorite quotes is by Rumi, which he says, "Give up your cleverness for bewilderment." Because in this second universe, in this option, the spirit within us works very hard to be expressed. And the spirit within us is a spirit of love. It is a spirit of compassion and kindness. It's a spirit of understanding, of tolerance, all of the things that we know that we want, all of the things that we really want. And it's more of a spirit-based identity than an ego-based identity. If we were all to live in this universe, it would be quite remarkable, really, because that wilderness is that universe is a universe of cooperation, of unity consciousness, where there's enough for everybody, that we share, that we stop judging people based on erroneous things like color or gender or any of that. So universe number one, universe number two, pick one, right? Pick one of those universes you want to live in. Now, it's very interesting. I love talking about butterflies and caterpillars because it lends itself theoretically and allegorically and metaphysically and metaphorically to the journey that we must make in exactly the same way that the caterpillar and the butterfly must make. So what does a butterfly know? What does a butterfly know that what does a butterfly know that the caterpillar doesn't know? Now remember, the caterpillar is beautiful in and of itself, and it's very, very happy. It's crawling along the earth. It's munching its way through life, consuming massive amounts of food as it visits with its friends every day, and just it's quite happy. It's not too remarkable, a little lackadaisical, meaning a little uninspired, but there's nothing wrong with it. But at some moment, well, and kind of like us, right? Don't we kind of move through our days? We're kind of munching our way through life on food and alcohol and gummies and a little bit of internet shopping, a little bit of gambling, and we're kind of fat, lazy, and lackadaisical, uninspired, and kind of moving our way through life. That's universe number one. Um, but one day for the caterpillar, something within this caterpillar, and I apologize to those of you who've heard me talk about this before, but we can never talk about it too much because we forget. So always this is a reminder to wake up, a reminder to see things differently. But one day, something within the caterpillar absolutely insists that it stop what it's doing, construct a cocoon, and then put itself into the cocoon and allow, while in the cocoon, the caterpillar's life as the caterpillar knows it ends. And a few weeks later, some new entity emerges from the cocoon. Something unpredictable emerges from the cocoon. Something that the caterpillar could not have predicted comes out of the cocoon. We call that new entity a butterfly. But you can imagine that if God came down to the caterpillar and invited the caterpillar into that experience, what would the caterpillar say? It's like, "Hi, Mrs. Caterpillar. God, I just have such great news for you today," says God. "You're going to have a better life. That I know you have a good life now, but you're going to have a friggin' fantastic life. All you have to do is build this cocoon, climb into it, let your body turn to goo, and voila, you'll have a new, better life. What do you say?" And the caterpillar says, I don't think so. It sounds terrible. And why would the caterpillar object? Well, the caterpillar goes, "Well, I don't know. Is God really real? Am I just having hallucinations because I just chewed on a marijuana plant? Or, how can I know I can trust this deity? How can I know she's telling me the truth?" So the caterpillar says, "No, I think I'll take a pass on the goo part." But fortunately for the caterpillar, the mandate to become more than it is non-negotiable. It's built into its DNA. There is no choice, right? The caterpillar cannot choose to not transform into a butterfly. Now, obviously it's different with us, right? So God comes down to us and says, Denise, I have the best life for you planned. I have the best life for you planned. You're going to be so extraordinarily satisfied and contented and happy and enthusiastic and inspired. All you have to do is let your life turn into goo for a little bit of time. And then on the other side of that time, you will be a new order of being. We say, "Well, what do I have to do to have that new life? What's this goo crap you're talking about?" Right? And God says, "Well, you don't have to do too much. All you have to do is you have to quit drinking, or lose 20 pounds, or give up your cocaine habit, or be a more loving, kind person. You will have to change, but it will be really worth it. I promise you, it'll be worth it. Just follow my lead, and pretty soon you'll be a new person." Well, pretty much most human beings say no. And why we say no is because we don't like the goo, right? We don't like the being uncomfortable. We don't like having to change. We don't like not knowing where we're going. We don't like mystery. We really don't. But the universe has an interesting way. Do you remember I talked before, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, the spiritual founder of the Agape Spiritual Center in Los Angeles. He taught in his visioning classes, we are either pushed by pain or pulled by vision. Pushed by pain or pulled by vision. So this possibility that we have to become better human beings, or said more accurately, this possibility we have to get in touch with our spiritual identity, the truth about us, that we are not our bodies, we are not our past, we are not what's happened to us, we are not what's been done to us, we are not what we've done to other people. We're none of that. All of that is in universe number one. So nobody's to blame in universe number one. There's no judgment there. It is the way of being human when you identify solely with yourself as a body. But we don't like change, makes us uncomfortable. And unfortunately, we have a choice. So this pushed by pain, and we enter into this cocoon and this goo. I mean, I entered into it when I had my stroke. I was in a lot of goo for many, many months. You can enter into this goo through the death of someone you love. You can enter through the goo through a diagnosis. You get fired, your house burns down, somebody dumps you or divorces you. And almost always that will put us into a transformative process, which if we will allow it, if we will go with it, if we will use the time wisely, we can emerge knowing what butterflies know. We can emerge kind of a new order of being. It really is, I think it really is the mandate that we allow for ourselves to soften. And we allow for ourselves to let down our guard. You know, I talked about taking the no trespassing sign off our hearts. The world of human beings, the universe number one, without the presence of spirit. And I don't mean God out there in heaven on a cloud. I'm not talking about that God. That God is too big a conversation for mere mortals to understand. It's too vast an idea for us to wrap our human arms around, our human hearts. But what I do know is that within each of us is a seed of divinity, that God made you. Whatever that word means God made you. Life made you. You are an expression of life. You're an expression of beauty. You're an expression of unconditional love. You're an expression of desire and longings and wanting to live on the exalted side of life where life has meaning and purpose and love is expressed. Every human being wants that. There is no doubt in my mind. But we are all caught in this incessant, vicious circle of the past, creating our future. And as boring as it might be, or as painful as it might be, or as uninspired as it might be, it's more desirable for most of us than the goo. You know, there's Abraham Hicks did this whole body of work on Beyond the 12 Steps. You know, if all of us over 40, I'm sure, have been involved or known about 12-step programs, either for ourselves or other people, which is a very good program in that it helps people to get into community and out of isolation and into living a more balanced life. But Abraham Hicks did this whole thing beyond the 12 steps. So it's like life beyond just trying to cope or manage a world where there's too much fear and not enough love, or too much competition and not enough sharing, or too much greed and not enough cooperation. But none of that is who we are. But we get caught up in it because, you know, I mean, we want to fit in. You know, we want to be liked. We don't want to make waves. We don't want to upset the apple cart. We don't want people to be upset with us. We need to belong. But what the butterfly knows is how utterly fantastic it is to fly. The butterfly knows in a way that its former self could not know. The caterpillar could not possibly even really catch a glimpse of what it means to fly above the earth, to have the perspective of seeing the whole picture and not just the leaf you're munching, or the butterfly knows already that however uncomfortable it was in the cocoon, however scary that was, that ultimately it was worth it because now it is free. And I believe that each and every human being, each and every one of us are seeking spiritual liberation. We're seeking a way out of the trap of our humanity, our mere humanity. Now, in truth, I think humanity, spiritual, that we are spirits having a human experience, that humanity is really speaking about something that ultimately, if we were all awakened beings, we would no longer see it that way. We would see ourselves as light beings walking around this planet, loving, cooperating, making sure every child eats food, making sure that we all have, a way of putting clothes on our back and houses and housing, and we would stop killing each other and abusing each other. And that maybe that sounds a little boring. Man, it could be to the caterpillar. If you said to the caterpillar, so Mrs. Caterpillar, not only am I asking you to build a cocoon and climb into it, but you also have to leave all your friends and family behind. You just have to, I'm sorry. The sacrifice is you're going to have to leave your fellow caterpillars behind. This is what Jesus meant in the Bible. There's a phrase where he says, in order to awaken, in order to live in this this consciousness of heaven on earth, you will have to rise above them. Not be better. We're not talking about being better than people, but you'll have to make choices. You'll have to be willing to come out of the daydream, out of the illusion of separation into the reality of unity or connection. Now, often on the spiritual path, people express, I've been doing ministry now for about 25 years, and often, and I experienced myself, there are moments of loneliness because all of a sudden you're going to be thinking different thoughts and striving for different things and prioritizing your time and your money and your resources differently when you begin to awaken to universe number 2. When you choose door number 2, most people choose door number 1. So you might be walking through that door alone. Now, the good news is that over the past 25 years, humanity's desire for awakening is escalating. There is an escalation in spiritual awakening or transformation or the raising of consciousness. So we're no longer walking through that door as alone as we might have been walking through that door many, many years ago. I love this quote. So for those of you, my whole butterfly thing started with this quote, which is, only a butterfly can explain how caterpillars come to fly. Right? So caterpillars, like humans, an unawakened human, like the caterpillar, can't envision itself any differently. Now, if you're here with me tonight, you can envision yourself differently. Nobody deep in universe number 1 consciousness, nobody who's going to take a shotgun into a school tomorrow and start shooting bullets is going to care about this conversation at all. But because consciousness is beginning to crack open like a chick trying to break out of its shell, there are more of us, but still, the caterpillar, when it's munching along, cannot tell you about its future. It cannot tell you about the potential and possibility of flight, or the potential and possibility of being so beautiful. Caterpillars are kind of homely, and butterflies are so beautiful. It doesn't know anything about that. It just is doing what God tells it to do. It gets born, it munches, it eats, it builds a cocoon, it comes to goo, and then it flies and becomes beautiful. So it's kind of the same with you and I. An awakened being who's seen something different, who's experiencing something different, who has achieved forgiveness of their past, knows something that the person who hasn't done that cannot know yet. And if you're there, have ever tried to talk to somebody about waking up, or about forgiving the past, or about another path other than the one that they're taking, you know that it's almost impossible. It's something someone has to, you have to catch it in consciousness. Now, God does urge us to grow. And you can, just from this talk, catch in your mind the possibility that the goo might be really good, and you can choose the goo. And what would choosing the goo look like? Well, if you've been in a relationship for too long and it's no longer fulfilling to either of you, if you've been estranged from someone for too long and you're still suffering from the estrangement, if you have a habit or pattern or addiction that is beginning to take its toll on you, you can choose to not do that. So you can choose the goo. Choosing the goo is a very enlightened thing to do, to choose the goo. Most of us, it's a very brave thing to do. Most of us cannot do that. We will be pushed by pain. So you're going to smoke until somebody tells you you have emphysema. You'll stay at a job you hate till somebody fires you. You'll stay in a relationship you're not enjoying till somebody divorces you. And then you'll have the goo. But you don't have to wait, because being a butterfly, universe number 2, is a very, very good thing. And we want it. So my second butterfly quote that I love is this one, which is, to become a butterfly, you must want to fly so much that you are willing to give up being a caterpillar. It's good, right? So you have to, if you want to live in a life hallmarked by beauty and gentleness and kindness and compassion, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're in your 50s or 60s or 40s or 20s or 80s, it doesn't matter. You're never too young or too old to awaken out of the suffering that is the lot of the majority of humans. We suffer so much. So I just want you to know, the good news is that you don't have to know how to do this. You can just want it. You can just want it. So you can say, right where you are, sitting where you are, you can say, I don't know how to become a different order of being. I don't know how to cut loose of the vicious circle I'm in. I don't know the steps to take, but I'm willing. All you have to do is be willing to see life through a different pair of glasses, to begin to allow something to happen to your heart. We uncrust it, we take off all the barriers that we've had against love. And little by little, you will get signs and signals. You'll be drawn, little synchronicity, you'll reach out to somebody, a book will fall off the shelf, and your path will be made clear to you in exactly the same way as a path is made clear to the caterpillar. Nature is quite lucky, because it doesn't have choice, and we're quite lucky because we do. So I'm here every Sunday. No matter what I do in life, I'm here to remind us that there's more, always more, that we can be more, that life can be an extraordinary adventure, that we can slide into home base satisfied and fulfilled and happy with our performance. I do a lot of work with death and dying and hospice, um, and we want, I want, and since you and I are one, since we're all the same, I want to be on my deathbed being proud of how I lived. You know, when families go through a transition, when a member of the family dies, some really bad behavior can come out. But I always tell family members, it's like, conduct yourself in such a way surrounding this situation that 10 years from now, you'll be proud of yourself, that you will feel good about what you said and what you did and how you behaved. So, so for good, for bad or worse, for good, for better or for worse, unlike a caterpillar, unlike a rock, unlike a lion, unlike an eagle, you and I have choice. We are just a little bit lower than angels, and we can decide what to do, how to be, how to present ourselves, what we stand for. We can do that in life. And then we take a stand for what we've taken a stand for, and we show up that way. Might you lose some friends along the way? You might. Might you gain some new friends along the way? You might. And you might trade one tribe for another tribe, but I think ultimately we all want to live in universe number 2 instead of run by this. Universe number 2 is the universe of the spirit and of love. Universe number 1 is the universe of the ego and fear, and we have a choice. So I hope tonight that you will take this caterpillar analogy, this butterfly analogy, what butterflies know, and butterflies know that it's better to be flying than it is to be crawling. And it's better to be beautiful than it is to be unbeautiful or ugly. And if you've ever, I think it was, do you guys know who T.D. Jakes is? He's a big, big black preacher guy. And I remember listening to a sermon he did one time. He was saying that when a human being is imbued with a spirit, when love has replaced fear, when kindness has replaced meanness, when compassion has replaced judgment, that whoever that is, they're beautiful. It doesn't matter what their facial features are or their body type. When you are imbued with the spirit, you are beautiful. So I say, let's be beautiful and let's fly. Yes? Yes. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. That is our message today. If you, I do promise I have a newsletter coming out. If you're not signed up to receive my newsletter, you can do that at deniseschubert.com. And you can sign up for the newsletter. You can also see some beautiful African photos. You can read past blogs. If you want to, if you would like to donate to my ministry, you can do that through all kinds of ways. You can do it through PayPal, Zelle, or Venmo to revdschubert@gmail.com. It's optional, of course, but sometimes we want to give back. So this giving and receiving is a natural order of the universe, and I accept your gifts happily. And if you're interested in spiritual coaching or life coaching, you can email me, of course, at revdschubert@gmail.com. So it's been a pleasure tonight. So happy to see all my friends, my familiar faces, some faces I don't know. And I'm going to pray us out. So join me, yes? Again, thank you so much. I'm always grateful for you every week to be interested in what I'm interested in, and to be interested primarily in creating a world that works for absolutely everybody. All right, so let's pray. So as a reminder, we're not praying to a reluctant deity. We're not praying to have God give us something. You know, we're so used to praying to God for to get us a brand new car, to smite our enemies. We're not doing any of that. We are simply attuning ourselves to a power and a presence that we call God, that I call God, a power and a presence of love, a power and a presence of perfect and divine right order and activity. We're aligning ourselves in an awareness that we are unique and individualized expressions of that which created us. So what we need to navigate this life experience we already have inside of us. We don't need to get more. We don't need to get, we don't need to go find something in order to be better. We just need to let who we are out. And so I just invite you to join me in prayer as we allow ourselves, each and every one of us individually and as a group, to remember that we are more than our bodies, more than our history, more than our age, more than our health situation, more than our bank account. We are unique, individualized expressions of God, of source energy. And that it is that which connects us to each other, to all life everywhere, all beings, all plants, all animals. We are one. And so it is that golden thread that connects us one to another and to this way that life works. The way that life works, it is natural to evolve. It is natural for the chick to break out of its egg to a better life, for the caterpillar to crawl into a cocoon for a better life. It is a circle of life of which we're all a part, and it is natural. And so I speak my word for and about each and every person on this call or within the sound of my voice, accepting your welcoming whatever needs to be welcomed for you to find your way into heaven on earth, saying yes to life as you are urged out of your egg, as you are urged into the cocoon, as you are urged by nature itself to make changes that will cause a quantum leap in your experience of life. I want you to say yes to this. You don't have to know how or what. Just say, yes, I am willing to live an expanded, exalted, more than I can imagine ever extraordinary life. And then wait and see what happens. And so for our time together tonight, I am grateful for our willingness to be people of solutions rather than problems makers, and to be willing to lend our consciousness to the raising of consciousness for our entire planet. I'm grateful for you. And so we let this time be complete, and so it is. Amen. All right, beloveds, wonderful Sunday Night Alive. I will see some of you this week at Unity of Naples, and I will see the remainder of you next Sunday on Sunday Night Alive. Peace and blessings to you. Bye.